Welcome to the Change Life Destiny Show, where we highlight the latest and greatest technologies that can help you restore health, prevent disease, and promote wellness. I'm very excited today because I'm joined by MaryAnn Marks, the founder and CEO of LabSmarts, and she's here to talk about bio-individual blood work, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually something everyone needs to know about, and I'm just surprised that not a lot of us do. So, MaryAnn, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you, Roxy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your background.
Well, I didn't start out in the corporate or in the health and wellness field. I came from corporate America, working in a technology company, and one of my last roles there was I would travel 3, 4, 5 days a week, out on the road all the time, eating bad food, drinking beer, and just being unhealthy. And then my father had a massive stroke, and already his mother, my grandmother, was paralyzed on her entire right side, unable to speak for about 10 years from a massive stroke. And I'm like, this is not good. Like, this is in my family. I need to do something to make a change. And so I picked up this book. It was like the natural cures they never told you about or something. And I just started learning about the chemicals they spray on our food, the harm that pharmaceutical drugs can do to your system, and what's in the water. And I just started slowly, I was just consumed by all this information, just started slowly changing my lifestyle, cutting out like the hotel breakfast bagel and cream cheese, or a whole bunch of vanilla creamer in my coffee every day, and just started making slow changes as I learned myself that it's all about what you eat mainly, and lifestyle. And so over those few years working there, I started, I was 50 pounds overweight. I ended up losing weight, and and people were like, what did you do? And I just got so excited. I'm like, I think I have to leave my job and go get an education in nutrition. And so I just, 10 years ago, decided to leave my job and get that education, and things have been going on a new path ever since.
That's incredible, and that's such a common story. I've started to hear a lot more of people in corporate America, going 50 miles an hour and just not taking care of yourself. And you hear about corporate wellness and you think, maybe there's something there, but having that kind of aha moment that this is not how to live.
Right. It was amazing, the change that just food can make.
Yeah. And so how did you then, so we're talking about blood work today,
Yeah.
right? Like, how did you go from corporate America to, nutrition to now blood work?
Yeah, so in the nutrition school, I learned all sorts of great things about nutrition, but they touched a little bit on blood work and just explaining what the markers on the CBC, the CMP, the basic panel that you get from the doctor, what they mean, and that just fascinated me. And then they talked about the reference ranges on the lab report. And I had no idea that those ranges are just based on 95% of the population tested, either at that lab, around the country, in that region. And so, the people that get their blood work done they're going to the doctors. They usually have some symptom, condition that brought them there. So that reference range is made up of our unhealthy population, in addition to the unhealthy people that are, the sick people that are going to get their blood work done. So that range does not represent optimal health. So in school, I learned about this thing we call optimal ranges, which are a tighter set of reference ranges for each marker that really you should be closer towards the middle of that range. So there's a tighter set of ranges for each marker called optimal ranges, and you want your values to fall into that range, and that represents more healthy value. So then you can look at the blood work from a different perspective, and then help identify different imbalances in body systems if they fall outside of that optimal range, and before they fall outside of the lab range. Once they fall outside of that lab range, then there's, the doctor has justification to say, oh, your TSH is outside a lab, let me give you a thyroid medication, or your cholesterol's high, let me give you a statin. I mean, that's really all they do with that information, where in our field, we can be more proactive and help the patient and client look at their numbers and try to get them more in line with optimal health before they reach that disease state. So when I learned those things about blood work, and I just because I'm a techie kind of person, I just was fascinated by it. So then I graduated, working with clients, and I just consumed every course and everything I could about, in our field, it's called functional blood chemistry analysis. It's where you look at blood work from a functional, optimal perspective. And so I started, being a techie, I started making my own spreadsheet where I had my optimal ranges in there. I would plug my numbers in from my clients and use that as the baseline, as part of the other assessments that I do, diet and lifestyle history, to come up with recommendations then. But I just started getting so into it that that's all I really wanted to do, was look at people's blood work. And then I would work with my colleagues and I would offer my services to them, or I would look at blood work for their clients. And then I started learning more and more and realizing that my spreadsheet just wasn't cutting it, especially when I learned about that the blood looks different for everyone based on their individual traits. Men have different blood than women. Younger men have different blood than older men in different markers. Pregnant women, their blood looks drastically different than non-pregnant women. And even here's a good example of, there's another criteria. If you live in a high elevation city like Denver, there's less pressure up there. That means you breathe in less oxygen, so the body overcompensates by generating more red blood cells. So you can't compare the ranges for someone living in Denver to somebody living in Charleston, South Carolina at sea level. So there's all these different nuances and changes that you need to apply when you're looking at blood work using the appropriate reference ranges for that individual client, which is why I call it bio-individual blood work analysis. So I decided that in my previous life, being a techie person, I invented some software to automate some processes at my company. And I thought, well, I love blood work. I know how to automate software. And practitioners out there really could use this help to, there's many of them that have their own spreadsheets doing the same sort of thing. So I thought, I should make software. So I just took a chance, used my savings and my retirement money, and started developing this software to allow practitioners to use something to make it easier, to make it more accurate, mainly, the start of it, make their analysis more accurate using these different bio-individual ranges. And so it's been a fun road. I've spent maybe thousands of hours doing research around what the optimal ranges really should be for each marker. And so there's a lot of work that has gone into it, but the output, so that I share, so practitioners of all types can use the software. I have users that are nutritionists, health coaches, naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, chiropractors, anybody who has a patient or client, and usually they have some sort of blood work that they want to spend more than 5 minutes looking at it with them, like other conventional doctors do. They like to use the software to also then in the software it generates a report that plots the values for every marker on these nice color-coded bar graphs with the optimal ranges in green, and it gives a visual representation to the patient to show them where their values are falling. So that's a key feature that the practitioners like and use. And another thing is a practitioner may start working with a patient, get their blood work, do a baseline of their blood work in the beginning, give them recommendations, maybe 3 months later, run another set of blood work, put that in the software, and then they can compare and visually show that patient that their markers are improving based on the recommendations that they gave that client. So it's been pretty cool to help practitioners. So instead of me working with clients directly, I'm helping practitioners now help their clients.
That's amazing. And I kind of almost want to summarize what you just said, because there's so much amazing information in there. So that blood test that billions of us go get, every day or whatever, like there's people doing this every day. They get this report, and there's the reference ranges that are like what's normal, and you kind of just like, oh, cool, I'm normal, because the ranges are pretty, they can be pretty large. And these are based on the average US person, which you were saying is maybe not the healthiest person.
Yeah.
And so you decided, like, you realized that this is a problem, and you decided to take the skills that you had in the tech world, apply it, come up with this incredible software, and you were using it with your own patients, and now you're like, every practitioner needs to have this software because it's going to be a game changer for outcomes with patients.
Right, right.
And what are some of the outcomes that practitioners might see with patients, or what are some of the sort of the results they might see?
Yeah, in the example that you said, though, many patients go to their conventional doctor and they're like, they say, oh, everything looks normal, because they're falling, they could be in the upper end of that range or the lower end, right on the cusp, and they say everything looks normal, but they know they don't feel normal, and they walk away pretty confused. So this will help clear up that confusion for patients when they can really see that their values, are on the upper and lower ends of those ranges. But in terms of I have one specific example of one of my users, practitioner, who works specifically with women trying to get pregnant or pregnant women, and the blood work during pregnancy drastically changes. The red blood cells are a lot less because the body, the vascular system is filling up with fluid to protect the mother, and all sorts of changes. Anyway, so that client came to her with her regular lab report that showed all these values, high and low, and she was stressed. And as a pregnant, woman, you don't need to be stressed about your blood work. You're going through all these other things. So she brought her blood work to that practitioner who uses the software. She entered it in the software. We have reference ranges specific for each trimester, so we know what values should be for that pregnant woman in that trimester. She put her values in there, and everything looked normal. Everything was in the green, and that really alleviated that anxiety that pregnant woman was feeling just over her blood work. So that's one example of how it can help practitioners with their clients.
That's amazing. I'm sure you have a lot more examples.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited about is that you'll be at the Changing Life and Destiny conference, and you'll be showcasing your technology and being able to share more with practitioners on how they can actually implement this into their practice.
Yeah, I'm excited about that class. I'll show them how to not only use the software, but how to interpret some of the results, how different bio-individual changes affect the blood, and then even if they want to get interested in ordering labs because a lot of times when you go to the conventional doctor, they only order the basics, and you really can't interpret, just for example, anemia and the possible root causes of anemia unless you had an iron panel, and a lot of conventional doctors don't order that. So I'll be explaining to them, show them how they can order through get their results through LabCorp, send their client to LabCorp, get that information, and order the right test that they need. And that'll be fun to share that with practitioners, because everybody that you work with, everybody has had some blood work at some point. And to be able to know how to read that will help you. There's so many things that you can learn from it, nutrient deficiencies, all sorts of different imbalances that you can use to help that patient improve their health. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
We're really excited to have you, MaryAnn. Thank you for joining me today and for sharing
welcome.
this really important information that everyone needs to know, and I can't wait for the conference and to see you there and to learn more from you.
All right.
And if you want to meet MaryAnn, if you want to learn more about her technology and how to bring it to your practice or to your patients, please join us at the Changing Life and Destiny conference, where you'll really learn how to change your life and change your destiny. Thank you for being here today.